So myself, Naveen Manshetty, I am the host of the Busy Conversations. I am working in the area of sustainability. I have with me co-host Ms. Ranjita Pradeep. She is the founder of UFI Ambitions. She is a green building expert, a veteran. Today we have a guest, Mr. Chengal Reddy. He is a pioneer in farming reforms, and he has joined us. We are thankful to him. Welcome, sir, Mr. Chengal Reddy. Namaste.
Namaskaram. Namaste. Thank you.
Namaskaram,
Namaste,
sir.
sir.
Namaste, Ma. Namaste.
So I would like to introduce you. Uh, Sir has worked over the last 3.5 decades in the farming reform sector, and he's a lawyer by profession. He comes from social and a political background, and a diehard farmer, and also he is dedicated to the welfare of the farmer life, and he is a visionary who would like to contribute to the reforms, and he's supporting the current reforms by the central government. Sir, I would like to request you to make an introductory remarks as how farming has become so complex in the current situation, which is while we are a country of an agrarian economy, and we have been doing this over more than 1,000 years. Why there are so many complexities, and when exactly have you identified these issues are self-made?
Thank you, Naveen and Ranjita. It's nice. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity. Farm sector, our nation has sustained for thousands of years. There was no, it was not really happy, but then it was a way of life. The villages sustained country for more than 3,000 years. But the changes, real changes, have come only, I must say, in 1960s and 70s. In 60s, we faced serious food shortage. We were importing from America. There was serious problem in 60s, 70s, 80s. The government of India and the state governments emphasized on agriculture development. So we have brought in irrigation projects, seed, fertilizer, etc. In 1880s, we have achieved self-sufficiency. There was no problem. We had sufficient food. Then the problem came after 1990s liberalization. The problem is not exactly problem in sense. The service and industrial sectors have grown very well, about 10 beyond 10% averaging in these last 3 decades. But whereas the farm sector stopped at 1 or 2% for almost all these 30 years. The reason is whatever the so-called reforms or policies that have really propelled the growth of service and industry, the technologies, investments, free markets, and entrepreneurships, these are denied to farmers. Before 1990s, we were producing sufficient food, but it was mostly for Indian consumption, Indian industry consumption as a raw material. By and large, there was a average in expenditure and income. So the farmers were not, it was going on, not that there was really no problem in sense, it was sustaining already. But in 90s, the problem started with liberalization. Because on one side, you saw the growth of service and industry. At the same time, the farm sector was controlled with so-called restrictions. Earlier industry service also there were restrictions like licenses, permits and all that. But in 90s, you liberalize them, but whereas in agriculture sector, they continue. And the problem today is we are producing, but it is not profitable. We have increased quality, but there is no competitiveness in terms of taking it to global standard. This is where, and then there is also the problem of so-called WTO and other problems. Then the main problem came because of governmental policies in regard to exports, imports, technologies, investment. If you see in the last 2 years of Mr. Modi, he allowed foreign direct investment in agriculture after almost 30 years. And recently he brought reforms of essential commodities and all that. Of course, they are stalled, that's a different issue. But these reforms ought to have come along with service and industry 30 years back, but finally they have come. Now, as a farmers activist, I came into it for various reasons, and I did work on these policies. I have tried our organization is a non-political farmers body. We have made a sincere efforts to bring in about these reforms. Even now we are continuing. And I hope that in the coming days, we have observed that COVID and other problems have created a problem for service and industrial sectors. So today, the growth possibilities are more in agriculture, whether it is value conversion or value addition or exports, traceability and quality various issues. If we take up that in that particular manner, India not only can boost up both service and industrial sectors, we can increase our exports, become globally competitive, and farm sector itself can provide lot of employment and all
So we
these.
could come to the opportunities later.
Yes, there are
So we want to go in
opportunities.
progression actually,
I
because
believe now there is possible. Yes, now you can go ahead.
yeah. So we want to start by where the problem started, and at the end we'll come to the opportunities on what we can do.
Okay.
So and Ms. Ranjita also has
Yeah,
points.
few
Yes.
questions I would like to ask you, sir. So my question is, what is the current situation of land in agriculture in our country?
Land per se is not a problem in our country. We have almost 140 million hectares, and out of which 60-70% is still rain fed. And in the last few years, various state governments, especially Telangana and Andhra across the country, they are providing a lot of irrigation facilities. And this is there is no problem of land. Question is, the productivity part is the main problem. Land is not a problem, and the so-called apprehensions that land is going for industry, urbanization, infrastructure. No, it is there, it may going, but it is not going to affect either farming or agriculture.
No, my worry is this small and marginal farmers are there, no, sir?
Yes.
They are the main focus in this place. They are sufferers, actually. When you say they have a small portion of land, right? When there is a 2 hectares, the bigger people don't have, the larger farmers don't have a problem, because it goes in the volume. But the small farmers, small and marginal farmers in our country.
Oh, let me explain to you, Ranjita. First thing you must understand, 86% of our farmers are small and marginal farmers.
Correct.
And even the rest, except 1 or 2%, only 1 or 2%, please remember, nobody has more than 15 to 20 hectares. That's not even 1% across the country, except in most of the developed states, there is a land ceiling. And the question of small farming is in my view, is not a worried thing to be worried about, because today it is not the size of the holding, it is how much technology you are adopting, how much investment you are making, how much of marketing facilities we are creating. Now, let me tell you, in this last 10 years, some of the core areas which has grown very well is the flowers, that is the poly houses, where you can go flowers, vegetables, high value vegetables. And then the question of, even in this so-called small hectares, if you make an investment, for example, if you want 1 hectare poly house, you need a 5 million rupees investment, and you need a very highly qualified person to manage not only production but marketing, processing, and all that. So the question is, this so-called apprehension about the small farmers of the land, in my view, is not correct. There are few instances here and there, but across the country today, what these small farmers are requiring all these three aspects, as I told you: technology, investments, market connect. So I personally feel, and with the developments that is going on, the problem is nothing to worry about small farming or their land being taken. You can be rest assured of it. Yes.
Sir, you mentioned about the liberalization. So we have seen various sectors, growth, such as IT and telecom, industrial growth, commodities. And why is that agriculture has not been pursued as industry? Is it because the reforms or liberalization, or is it because the existing laws are pulling behind agriculture, or is it because the governance? What is it, sir, which is made farming behind?
There are more than one reason. Firstly, amongst the policy makers in Delhi, in fact, administrators, economists, and even the top so-called industrialist elite of this nation, their understanding of agriculture is very, very limited. See, as just now Ranjita was telling, first thing everybody is afraid is that if there are small holding, but what we should understand is small holding itself is not a defective problem. See, what is happening, if you take most of the European countries, they're all small holdings like a flower growth or anything, maybe 5-10 hectares, that's not an issue. But if you see China, if you see Korea, if you see Vietnam, they're all small holdings where they are being very successful. Now here, the reason why we have gone is when both Narasimha Rao, Manmohan Singh, and later on the present Prime Minister and others, they have a problem in understanding agriculture. You see, you have very successful models in industry and service sectors to be adopted into the Indian conditions or anywhere in the world. If you want to manufacture a atomic reactor, yes, you can just bring it and adjust it. You want a Rafale fighter, you get it. You want a mobile phone, everything. But agriculture, Indian agriculture is totally different. This is not something you can copy, but you can get wherewithal, technologies, and then adapt to the Indian condition. Here I must say, most of the political parties have failed. Because the political parties' leadership, as I am also very well aware with the Delhi, I'm connected with a lot of these political parties and leaders, especially the regional party leaders. The last 30 years, most of these people have gone for so-called populistic schemes. And then in the process, most of these people also have not brought in about real reforms. Look at anyway, any state in the country, they don't have elections to the market yards. Even places like Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, which claims a lot of development, they don't allow market yards to become democratic. And across the country, whether it is UP or anywhere, the agriculture planning is not done by these panchayats and Zilla Parishads, but it's all done by government, state governments or central governments, and it is all by administrators. The farmers themselves are not allowed to do their planning at the village level or a block level or at the best district level. This is all centralized planning. There are problems. Therefore, and then the question of technologies. Which area requires what technology? I don't think government of India or state government have even fundamental knowledge of agriculture. Because one simplest fact I will share with you before there are too many. We have 21 million tons of mango production, and we don't have branding or traceability even for 1 kilo of this mango. Now that shows the failure of administration, policies, technologies, or whoever matters in this country who are running this country. They don't even understand how to brand a mango, leave alone. Whereas you get a kiwi from New Zealand, 5,000 kilometers away, and you get an apple from California, 10,000 kilometers away. But you don't have a mango from your nearest village, which is branded mango. Now that shows the deficiency. This is all overall, Naveen, because we have a very easy model to copy in service and industrial sectors, as you have seen. I don't want to find fault with them, but you have hospitals, you have hotels, you have roads, you have airport. They're all copied models. There is nothing invention in India. So the problem here comes, there is a failure, total failure, I must say, in policies and administration, especially governance by both by parliament as well as the executive. They have all failed, both state and central governments.
Sir, my question is,
yeah,
what are the subsidies given in the agriculture in India, sir? Subsidies.
Oh, huge subsidies, huge. But the question is, are they reaching the farmers? Yes. No, they are not reaching the farmers. You must
question, sir. That is what when you talk about the subsidies, whether this small marginal farmers are able to get that. See, large farmers, they have their pathway to connect to the department, and these are uneducated peoples. They don't know how to interact with the government officials. So whether it will reach them to the fullest?
No, yes, always don't say fullest. It's not possible. See, the question, Ranjita, is what are the subsidies given? Let's take fertilizer subsidy. Why we get around 70,000-80,000 crores. Now, the fertilizer is purchased by a farmer, small farmer, Punjab farmer, Kerala farmer, and Deccan farmer, or a drought-prone farmer. and he purchases at a subsidized price. So any farmer using fertilizer is getting subsidy. But the question there, the real problem is, are you using the fertilizer in an optimum manner? That's a problem. And is the problem, I mean, fertilizer wastage is there? Yes, there is a problem. And likewise, as you rightly said, water, for example, water and electricity. We are giving subsidies. The water is free everywhere in the country. Electricity is free everywhere in the country. But how much are we wasting? Now, who is responsible? This is the question I want you to seriously think in days to come. Because water, when you construct a irrigation project, irrespective whether he is a small farmer, big farmer, you get water. Likewise, electricity is given to everybody. The question, Ranjita, is not the subsidy. The question is, how efficiently can you use these subsidies? This is where, again, the intervention comes. What are the interventions? How do you, what type of cropping pattern you should do? Is it sugar or paddy or horticulture or this thing? Who is to advise the farmer? There is none. Acha, when you use electricity tube well, how much electricity you should use? There is no controls on the water usage by the farmers, because the governments always, they want, we are not able to implement metering of free electricity in this country for last 15 years. No state government, no politician, whether the present or past or future, no regional, but none of these political leaders have the will. I mean, I must say, I don't want to find fault. Politicians are politicians, but what happens in the process is, there is a contention, yes, in fact, really, that water is wasted. I agree, yes, but we are not responsible, because I don't maintain the canal. I'm not told what type of crop to be grown, how to maximize, optimize the water usage. Nobody comes and tells me, because I'm not allowed in the planning, whether it is irrigation project, whether it is a horticulture. That's the problem, Ranjita, is
water management system is missing, sir. Water management system, I feel the water management system, which crop requires what kind, how much of water? See, for example, rice requires more. So along with that, the different crops have a different requirement, right, sir? Yes. So that has been missing out, and the knowledge sharing is missing for the farmers.
Who is responsible? I can tell you. All these prime ministers, all the chief ministers, all the politicians, all the administrators. These fellows are responsible. Way back, 15 years back, World Bank brought in about Water Users Association, and all these administrators today, these IAS, these politicians, these fellows have successfully sabotaged that water management. It remained with the hands of the officers, engineers, because there is a lot of dealings in that. And they are not willing to give it to farmers. This is what, you said it correctly. Now, water is misused. And you know one thing, the water efficiency under irrigation projects is less than 50-60%. That means whatever the water is created, only, 30-40-50% is going waste. Now, none of these chief ministers or prime ministers of these politicians, none of these fellows, whether they are in ruling or opposition, they never talk all these subjects, because they are politics.
Right, with rivers, sir. We have so many rivers across. You take Krishna River, you take Kaveri River, every side, our whole country is filled with rivers.
There is no shortage of this water.
Right, but the management, how do you tackle this?
No, I'm telling you straight away, it is these politicians and bureaucrats and engineers who are responsible. What else can I say? I can't abuse it, isn't it? There's no point in abusing. It is every one of these fellows who are in the ruling today, who are earlier ruling, whether Delhi or here or anybody, any secretariat, ministries, department, all these fellows are collectively responsible. I would also go a step further. Do you know that agriculture planning for 2,000, 3,000 years in our country was done at the panchayat level? You have the great Mahatma Gandhi talking of panchayat, and you have brought in all reform, but none of these chaps, these administrators and politicians, engineers, they allow farmer to manage their waters. No, they have their own selfish interest. Now the question is $1 million question is, how do you cut these gardens? Not. You see, educating the farmers is difficult, because as you are all aware, agriculture is no longer profitable. Therefore, people are running away. And these reforms would have reversed the trend. Whatever Mr. Modi did, because the problem in country is earlier in 2006, Swaminathan gave a report, and both the so-called Congress leadership and people like the great Maratha leader and all these stuff, none of them implemented in the center or state government. And Modi also, I mean, I think finally after 6 or 7 years, he brought in some reforms and they are bogged down now. The question is, how do you solve this problem is $1 million question. Well, people like us, we keep on going on writing and talking. Now today you have asked me, I'm telling you straight away the answer. I will ask this Prime Minister. I will ask all these chief ministers, what the hell, who the heck are you to control my market yards? What business have you got to give it to collector for agriculture planning? Why the hell is your Niti Ayogs and State Planning Commission deciding agriculture planning? You give it to my Jilla Parishad. You give it to farmers. No, they won't. You give it to water users. The river. You see, World Bank gave a lot of money across the country to all the projects. 15, 20 years, the World Bank has invested. But these fellows have successfully damaged, destroyed, and today we are back to square one. Yes, yes, Naveen.
This
Sir,
MSP regime offer also, sir. I wanted to talk. See, one side, inside is the subsidy for fertilizers, seeds, and all other machineries and all. If you take outside the MSP regime of offers, how it is being utilized for these farmers, sir?
See, actually, MSP is a big fraud committed by successive governments right from 1930s or even earlier. See, they created this hype that MSP and all that. Actually, they do announce MSP for around some 23, 24 crops. But the real, that was, I'm talking about 40 years back. But then in these 40 years, what they were doing is, they were only procuring wheat and rice from mostly from Punjab, Haryana, and Andhra Pradesh. And till about 10 years back, this rice and wheat was given to so-called people below poverty line or 1 or 2 rupees are free. Now, what happened in the last 10, 15 years? States like Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Andhra, Telangana, and other states have caught up. They started producing more wheat and rice. Now, the problem came because the problem of other commodities was always a nuisance because government of India did not allow any technologies in oil seeds, pulses, or any other thing. You know, and you will be surprised if you take 30 commercial crops, except for cotton, there is no productivity increase in any crop in this country in the last 30 years. Now, who is responsible? I will ask the ministry, the Prime Minister, I will ask the Agriculture Minister, I will ask ICR, I will ask everybody. But who is to answer? None of these fellows will ever answer because they don't have an answer and they are not inclined to answer. The problem is, see, as you rightly said, look at these MSP. You know, we never had any MSP except few states. On and off, that also, please remember. You know, rice and wheat was produced in the last 40 years procured from Punjab, Haryana, and Andhra. And in the last 10 years, Mr. Raman Singh and Shivraj Singh Chauhan started procuring. And recently, Mr. Chandrasekhar Rao and Jagan Reddy has started procuring. But what is that they are going to do in the next 3, 4, 5 years? They have no answer. They are just, it's only time being political management because there is a pressure from farmers. They do procure. What is that they procure? Will they procure 100%? No. It's all again, knee-jerk reactions. They do this thing. Now the problem has come in Punjab because of the reforms, which is totally twisted. Now the big question before all of the nation is, what will you do if farmers go on producing rice and wheat and government goes on purchasing? And today, most silly, stupid, absurd thing in this country, which every intellectual should ask these political parties is, how can you are giving 10 kilos rice to every person, poor families? 800 million people, Mr. Chief Minister and Prime Minister, together they are giving every person 10 kilos. And can you eat 10 kilos rice or a wheat in a month? They should have some sense, but they just do it and we keep quiet. What shall we do? So it's not practical. But one thing is, yes, you have to provide some security over maybe 3 to 5 years time. Then later on, get into the so-called market economy of linking the farmers with the markets and then go ahead. Yes.
See, the current reforms, APMC Act and other, you are supporting that. So are these reforms completely in sync or still there are yet furthermore reforms are required, or these are good to start? And in what way you are supporting, sir, and how do you want to take it forward?
We must understand, Naveen, that the crop season is only 1 or 2 seasons in a particular year. So for example, chilies, turmeric, cotton comes into for harvesting during the months of November, December, January, and all. Likewise, in May, April, May, few crops will come. Now, let us look at the practical problems. When I produce around 30 million tons of cotton required by textile mills and others for export purpose, where am I to sell the, as I told you, 90% farmers, they sell their produce within 1 week or less than 1 week. Now, who is to purchase it? Where do you store them? What is the methodology, so-called methodology existing in government today to maintain so-called black market or white market? Now, these fellows have absolutely no idea at all, government of India. They just do some bloody knee-jerk reactions. They just, what is there last 40, 50 years back, the so-called essential commodities on and off they invoke. But let us look at the other side. Am I a farmer with 1 or 2 hectares producing some 100 quintals of oil seeds or cotton or XYZ? Where am I to keep it? I have to sell it. Now, who is to purchase? It has to be a trader. It has to be an industry, but certainly not government. So this essential commodities has caused a lot of damage. Question is, you have to find a way out, and this way out was not found by UPA or this present NDA for 20 years, or earlier Mr. Narasimha Rao and Manmohan Singh. They didn't bother about how to resolve this Essential Commodities Act. Who is to purchase, who is to store, who is to process, who is to answer? They don't have an answer. All that is. So the question is, firstly, amongst the 3 reforms, first is the Essential Commodities Act, which we farmers don't understand. We have no idea. Please understand. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So the video is not visible from your side.
Yeah, my friend, I had some problem. Sorry.
No, it's okay. You're a farmer. We can't expect you to be savvy. That's okay. We blame ourselves.
Okay.
So you can understand this is how the farmer, tech savvy he is. We have not enabled them. This is the country's problem, not your problem. This is how we kept.
Basically, not very friendly with the, in the.
Not exactly.
And the farmers.
We have kept the farmer in the dark. That is the example what we are seeing right now. The country is paying for it.
You must understand fundamentally, my friend, that farmers are kept in dark by politicians and administrators and the so-called professionals. Whether you are an engineer, you are an IAS officer, you are a CM or a PM or a minister, MLA, MP, all these fellows together, they have kept farmers in dark. So also our good friends in input industry and processing industry. Nobody wants to make a farmer as a partner. You know the problem? Whereas you see in your industry, anyway, okay, let me complete these reforms. The first one is APMC, these essential commodities is real necessary, because government can evolve a method when you produce 30-40 million tons, who is to store, how to store, and keep track of it. The second one is the so-called market reforms of selling wherever you want, whatever you want. Yes, it has to become. For example, take turmeric. We produce excellent quality turmeric in a place called Nizamabad in Telangana, one of the finest turmeric. But then the problem is, they don't understand the farm. They only know how to produce, but how to market, how to store, how to get a price. That is where you need the connectivity with industry, research, and markets and processing industry. Now, who can do it? Government is supposed to do, but government is not doing, and they won't do it also, because for whatever their reasons. First of all, Government of India doesn't understand, and the state chief minister, they don't want. That's the big problem with the farm sector. And lastly, the so-called what you call a land contract act. See, this land contract is nothing to be. It is created that the land will be taken by X, Y, Z. No, nonsense. You are all there. We are tenants in a house. We take a shop for a tenancy. We take a hall for marriage. What the hell? It's an agreement. Why do you think if you want to take a house of for 1 or 5 years agreement, why don't you think that similar agreement can be made with farmers? Don't tell me that farmers are ignorant and all that. You don't know. Indian farmers are gullible, hardworking, simpletons, all right. But they are smart, okay? Now that reforms have come, we can make agreement. You see, for example, in the last 50 or 100 years, farmers have permanent agreement with all the sugar factories. There is never any trouble. Of course, yes, you may discuss every year pricing and all that, but there is nothing like farmers are not aware of the agreement. They are not willing. A dairy farm, you have an agreement with dairy farms. Yeah, I mean, the industry will provide the milk animals and cattle feed, medical services, and they sell the milk to the price. So this contract of land leasing or production is totally absurd. But if they are implemented, they get connected with processing, exports, and other things. So therefore, all the three acts per se, yeah, they are good. Only thing is we do face a lot of problems like service and industrial sector. You have seen the halla gulla made by these bank fellows, government employees, railway fellows in 1990s. What is there? Where is there now? What about Air India? Okay, that's it. But today you are successful. Private sector is successful. Foreign technology is successful. MNCs are successful. Indians are successful. Everybody is successful except the farmers because there are no reforms. Tell me, yes.
Sir,
Sir, my
you know,
question is,
yeah, ma'am,
Naveen,
once
you'll
again.
take the questions. Naveen, you'll take the question.
Yeah. I think sir has covered most of the points, and I just want to add whatever the points we had covered. There are two additional points which are very critical. You can let me know if there are some other points which are missed out. One important thing is, sir, we have already talked about the complexity of the problems. You know that in our country it is very notorious. We see farmers, taking their lives. It is not dignified at all. So, which they are called annadatas, as you say. Even during the pandemic, you have seen everybody was at home, but the farmers were at work, and they were feeding the whole world. Not only the farmers around the world were feeding, and that was the only thing was kept on, and we were survived. Everything else was off. So when farmers are continue, without any government issues or whatever, they are just keep on farming, and they were able to feed us even during the pandemic. What made them stop, to make farming profitable? Why did they take their lives? And I mean, I want to address the fundamental issue. As you said, so many issues of marketing and bureaucracy, government, and so. But what is the fundamental issue? Especially the farming is not seen as a lucrative, and that's the reason why whether marketing or you said nobody wants to make farmer as a partner. Nobody wants to take farming as a profession. A farmer's son or daughter don't want to take it up farming as a future. So, what is the fundamental? Why the farmers are left out? He being a farmer, is he too much connected with the land, or he's not having any awareness? Where is the problem lying apart from the issues you talked about?
Basically, Naveen, it is the failure of institutions after achieving independence. After independence, we established very good institutions like market yards, panchayats, irrigation projects, free water, electricity, giving fertilizer at a low rate and supplying quality seed and all that. What happens, Naveen? We produce as far as the farmer is concerned. Instead of working 6 hours, he can work. He won't mind working 10 hours. Both wife family will work. The question comes, Naveen, once the crop leaves the field, what are the problems he faces? Take, for example, you could take it to a market yard. Any product in India, if you take it to a market yard, the entire market pricing is controlled by local aditiyas, local agents, and national state agents, national agents, exporters or importers. And these aditiyas are in turn, they are in connectivity with administrators as well as politicians. For example, import of edible oils. I just want to ask everybody start thinking. How many of you know that we import 80,000 crores worth of edible oils? Very few people. They may say, yes, we are importing. And by 2025, we will be importing 1,50,000 crores edible oils. Now, what is the edible oil? We are importing genetic edible oil. Genetic. Many people doesn't understand. No need to go. Some technology is being adopted in America, Argentina. We are importing. Now, their production level, if you see this genetic production level and Indian production level, there is a 50% to 100% variation, both in quality, pricing, investment. Therefore, what happens in India, the entire market system is controlled by these commission agents, Sarthias, and the bureaucrats directly, indirectly, and the politicians directly, indirectly. They don't allow us. Then there comes the second issue of what am I to do about become globally competitive. Today, you see, we have these regional agreements apart from WTO. How am I to compete? What are the facilities given to a Chinese farmer? Do you know that Chinese farmers are given all the technical facilities, all the small equipments? But here in India, we get American tractors, but not Chinese implement. That is what I mean. Chinese means small farm equipments. They are not made available. See, they do make some notional sounds and all that. They do make some so-called this thing. So the question that comes, and then as I told you, ultimately at the end of the day, what about an exporter? You see, we have excellent scope for establishing a permanent market connectivity in any country. For example, we can export 5 million tons of rice every year to China. But the question is, can we ask our farmers to produce the Chinese variety of rice? Yes, we can do it. That is what being done by Brazil. That is what done by Canada. They produce.
That's a great news, sir.
Yeah, that's right. So this is the problem. So the question, Naveen, at the end of the day, when I, as a farmer, work for 20, 30 years, every day I face the same problem. Uncertain markets, uncertain quality, uncertain pricing. So this goes on in marketing, this goes in water, this goes in electricity, this goes in quality parameters of fertilizer, pesticide. You know, in the last 2 years, the pesticide prices went up by 50% to 100%. But whereas my price went up by only 5 to 10%. What am I to do? And who is to tell government of India? No, government of India won't bother. They're not even worried. I mean, pesticides companies, they increase price. But whereas I can't increase my crop price. So the problem, Naveen, once again is we are caught in a vicious circle of these bureaucrats, engineers or businessmen and politicians. That is where the cutting the gardens knot of reforms. After all, that is what in the 1990s everybody did, and happily both BJPs, Congress, regional fellow parties, industry, service sector, everybody enjoyed the benefits. And none of these fellows are willing to give the same benefits to me as a farmer. Nobody speaks. In fact, recently I have sent a communication, a lot of these industrialists and everybody, telling them to write to Supreme Court for hastening up of the case. Nobody takes interest because, see, I mean, I wouldn't say call it selfishness, but the problem in this country is the success of industry, service sector, or any sector has developed because they are all organized. Whereas we farmers are unorganized, therefore we are exploited, neglected, and ignored. That's the problem.
So,
Yes,
So Ms. Ranjita has a question.
Yes,
Just want
Ranjita,
to.
please.
Yeah.
So,
Just coming to you, Ms. Ranjita, madam.
Listening
You
to
have a
your
question, so I just want to put up a background to you.
Yes, right.
Sir,
Please, Ranjita.
yeah, sir, you just now talked about why farmer is not being included as a partner. So there are a lot of misconception. We want to address actually entrepreneurs where the future lies. So Ms. Ranjita has a very interesting point to make on taxation. She want to ask you something like everybody knows that farmer doesn't. I mean, think at least that farmer doesn't pay tax, so they are exempted from income tax and all. So, are there any misconceptions you want to ask something?
Yeah, see, understanding your conversation and all these things. So, what I would like to ask is Indian farmers are directly being net taxed. They are not being spared.
Yeah, we pay a lot of. Yeah. You are very correct, Ranjita. We pay a lot of taxes. See, our diesel we pay taxes. Pesticides we pay 18% tax. No, yes. See, at the end of the day, see, this is it is like a pot. You fill up a pot with a lot of plenty of water, but underneath you put 3-5 holes, and then so the water is sapped. See, the problem, Ranjita, is actually once again I should not like to comment, but somehow the Indian policy makers have lost directions in regard to agriculture, and that is creating a lot of hiccups for economy. For example, people in cities who pay taxes, they feel very bad. That look, farmer is getting every free, but people like you and Naveen think farmers are committing suicide. You feel sorry for them, but in between, the solution is there within our country, within our people, within our administrators, politicians, and professionals. But the problem is who is to pay attention to their problem? Look at our Chief Justice of India. I mean, I only wish I can communicate to him. You can also send this message. See, this case of farmers has been, Supreme Court has stayed it some time back, and they appointed a committee. And that committee has given a report on 30th April. Now, my request to Chief Justice of the Supreme Court is, why don't you make that report open and say that government act is good or bad? I mean, it's a matter of half a day. But then the Supreme Court of India, how much attention to they pay to farmers' problem is $1 million question. Well, if they pay attention by now, the Chief Justice or Supreme Court could have said these acts are good or bad. But then they leave it to people sitting in Delhi, fighting, politicalizing, abusing, criticizing. I mean, you know the way the parliamentarians. I don't want to comment. That is what.
Sir, just want to see a few good things also happened, as you know, obviously because the farmers were successful, at least in feeding us in a large extent. I mean, it's a miracle that they are producing 2 times the quantity required in terms of self-sufficiency from famine time. Can you, sir, talk about the optimistic times of, the Korean or the milk revolution, the white revolution and the green revolution? There are, of course, the flip side to it. And we want to draw this to what it can do to the future now, because now we are moving to an era of entrepreneurs and startups, which could perhaps be a partner to farmers. Can you highlight the white revolution and the green revolution, some important points, how it happened and how it changed the perspective of the farmers and all?
Yeah, today we are exporting 5,000 crores worth of prawns. We can add another zero and make it 50,000 crores of fish, prawns, every product. And look at our own variety of fruits, exotic fruits like our lychees, our pineapple in northeastern states, our mangoes across the country. We have 1,000 varieties. The question, Naveen, is yes, there are success stories in terms of individuals or some institutions are being built very good. For example, definitely Dr. Kurian's is extraordinary, great. But the question, Naveen, is individuals, they do build institutions, but then institutions must become self-reliant. Take, for example, the cooperatives in this country. We did start, there are the greatest cooperatives in this country, but there are highly mischievous cooperatives in this country. Well, look at cooperatives other than Gujarat. Most of the states, they are rotten. They are all controlled by XYZ. See, the question, I would say, Naveen, put it in a simplistic manner. It is the institutional failure in this country that matters. One of the greatest failure of this country is the administration, Indian Administrative Services, who are called collectors, secretaries. These people are given constitutional powers, responsibilities, but their performance in discharging the duties as a collector, as a secretary, as a cabinet secretary, PMO here and there, see, they are not up to mark. They hate to displease his master to put forth a frank and a view that is in terms of constitution, in terms of economy, in terms of people, in terms of overall development. That is where the deficiency comes. That you see, we have 3 institutions: judiciary, administration, and politicians. Politicians, you forget about it; they are good, bad, ugly. That is, politicians are politicians. Because 2,000 years back also, we have same politicians. But the greatness of our any democracy is administration and judiciary. Unfortunately, our administration and judiciary is not able to come up to expectations. Well, I can only hope that, and the other very critical thing I want to share with all of you, please understand that in all these so-called democracies, it is the middle class who really sustain the democracy. But unfortunately, in our India, in our middle class, like for example, look at the media, look at these employees, look at the doctors, actors, engineers, lawyers. None of these people take real interest. I mean, few cases apart, these institutions, for example, we have a Bar Council of India. Is not bar council, it is bar. I mean, it's more like a bar. How many times have these bar councils across the country have taken up issues that are policy issues? They don't. They just get elected and go away. Likewise, is it medical councils and other industry? What about our own industrial organizations? They don't cross the Lakshman Rekha because you see they develop what you call a personal interest of saying to protect their interest. But what I must tell all of you is that if we are four legs in this country. If only three legs are strong and one leg is weak, whether the industry professionals and all that, this country is going to limp. And you are limping because you have deliberately neglected the farm sector. And you, wherever you are, you will pay a price for that.
Sir, we actually started this conversation. It's a dialogue because you yourself being a farmer and we are not from a farming background. It's a step forward to know the issues and what can we do with how can we work with farmers and and farming background and in terms of policy, technology, and market opportunities. I think it's a start. So, but at the same time, we need guidance from pioneers like you, a younger generation, and people who want to pursue some opportunities in the farming sector, if not directly doing farming, because obviously it's a very difficult thing doing farming. Somebody has to be really put their hands in the mud and be doing at least for a decade or so. He has to really understand the science of it. It's like a scientist. So we want to see a different future. So right from now that we have made a good chapter, at least politically, the Farmers Act we have, APMC, and hope we abolish the Essential Commodities Act. Lot of younger youth in the country, which is about 60% now, they come to about 75 crores or so, who are above the age of 16. They are seeing this as a very optimistic way. Even if 5% of them pick up, I think there would be a good chance. So how do you see the reforms? What is the next hindrance in the reforms, and what are you planning to do? How can people support you? Can you talk about it?
So, well, I am personally, I mean, the support from general public is one thing we appreciate. You see, for example, most of the boys from farming families working in IT, I mean, every one of them can spare 1 hour a week just to say what is the problem and then find out the details from your parents and send it to Prime Minister or Chief Justice or XYZ, collector or somebody. That communication system requires to be established in this country. You can call any doctor, any lawyer, any IT boy or anybody, boys or girls, India and abroad. Just tell them one thing, or not even forget about 1 week. Every month, ask them, find out what is the problem of they are facing in their village by their parents or relatives, friends. Ask them to write to the concerned people because these people working, they know whether address a letter to the collector or a chief secretary, chief minister, or prime minister, just write. This is one aspect. But it will take some time because there is not much hope amongst the younger generation or the farmers themselves that, we are disgusted with the way politicians behave. Look at the parliament, it's a mockery. So my suggestion to you, apart from, it will take little time, Naveen, Ranjita, my suggestion to you is
Sir,
during the coming
my
days.
question is, see, my question is, you are like-minded people, few of them from taluk wise. Okay, taluk wise, take it as create a platform for this younger generation. Let's not depend on the government. That's what I am trying to see when we get. So we should be some kind of one taluk does, one district does. We can take our agriculture in the younger generation into a different level.
No, I agree, Ranjita, but
Initiative, like few kind of, you're a pioneer in this industry, sir. Like you, we can create number of clusters.
that is no. There are some complications which I would explain later on in another session. But one suggestion which I want to your group is start these interactive sessions with farmer, industry, scientists, and policy makers. For example, you can ask the agriculture minister in Karnataka, horticulture minister, fisheries minister, commerce minister, get some 2-3 farmers from coffee or etc. And also get some technologies. And then what are the problems? You see, the problem here, Ranjita, is everything is there, but the question is there are too much of blockage. We all live in our own closed circumstances. We are not willing to open up. See, today, whatever I spoke, I can explain it to the prime minister or a chief minister or a secretary, but they are not willing to listen. They won't come on a mobile and then talk to me. I mean, I will straight away ask whoever is there in the planning commission, why is that you haven't implemented the water irrigation management by farmers? I would ask the prime minister or irrigation minister or irrigation secretary, but they won't. But my suggestion to you is, because you see, me as a farmers activist, my approach will be abrasive, but my suggestion to you is that in a period of time, you go on eliciting these views and placing before public. So this, you see, it's a long drawn process. Let me tell you, I agree that whatever you are saying, I have worked for 35 years. But then the problem, Rajita, is nobody has interest. This is the fundamental rule you must accept. You may say motivation. Yes, all my 35 years of my motivation, I have just about maybe 35 people whom I am not sure. Question is, where have I failed? Have I failed to inspire people? Have I failed to communicate with the policymakers? Have I failed in making proper presentation? Today I spoke about various people. Is language bad? Yes, definitely it is harsh. I mean, no politician, no administrator, no engineer will appreciate it. But then I am what I am. But my suggestion to you is, I am probably on my way out. I am outdated. My suggestion to you is, go on working this system. Over a period of time, there is bound to be change. For example, you can take commodity-wise, take one banana man from Tamil Nadu and one banana man from North, and get try to work on those models. Because I personally, there are these problems I have been pursuing. But like simplest, at the end, I can only tell you, when Mr. Modi brought in these reforms, which are due for last 30 years, look at the way what has happened to these reforms. There are some people sitting near Delhi, they show as if the reforms are harm to the nation, economy, people, everything. And then you have your political parties talking that Modi has, these reforms are bad. And all, I mean, what am I to say as an activist? I only feel pity for my farmers whom I work, because even an act is made, rules are not made, these acts are not implemented, and you find people opposing, intellectuals opposing, political parties opposing. What could be more ridiculous than this? So, Ranjita, this is from my side. Yes, Ranjita, I'm trying, and I will keep trying.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Naveen.
Sir, this is an attempt, to change the perspective and bring people to get closer to the farming community. And this would be a series of events. This is just a start. It's an introduction. We want to start somewhere, because things have to start somewhere. We have to begin from our side. You have been doing this for nearly 4 decades, but we would like to do in whatever way we can, at least get the awareness, so that the current generation and the future generation can identify what we can do, at least. Because so far people have ignored farming sector. Now at least this is the time to know the sector. At least maybe our future generation, our children, will pick it up someday, because it is, if you don't, then we are going to be die hungry otherwise. So, but on an optimistic note, India is also, just like a land of farmers, it is also a land of entrepreneurs and of ideas. And fortunately, we are also reviving our entrepreneur spirit in the last decade or so. It may be a coincidence that even farming sector is also on the verge of revival. Maybe these two people will coincide. So we are actually targeting to make it very, very lucrative. We are creating farming as an enterprise. We are presenting farming as an enterprise, not as a problem. And in this endeavor, we need your support, and we need a final vote of words from you. How entrepreneurs and people who would like to take farming as a really a very fantastic opportunity in their life to make a living as well as an enterprise, how to work together. Can you just give few final words? We will for sure will come out with more series on very specific subjects like technology and other areas.
My suggestion to entrepreneurs is you have greatest opportunity in processing, value addition, marketing. Instead of looking at the very high level of state or national level, I would like to suggest to a lot of people focus it on the limited area of your own areas where maybe 100, 200, 300 kilometers or 3-4 districts. Identify 1 or 2 crops, start advising farmers on productivity patterns, get them branded, start marketing. Because you see, we are always looking at a nation as a whole. That my suggestion to most of the entrepreneurs, focus it at a local level, because I would say we are a 135 crores. Take limited area and limited number of people, start as an entrepreneur, and you will have excellent opportunities. It's great possibilities are there. Government is coming out with some, they have announced a lot of schemes. Only thing is you have to get them, overcome these obstacles, red tape. But yes, they can always overcome, because as you rightly said, our entrepreneurs are really good. You have to work hard. I only hope that this present stalemate in Delhi, these reforms will be over. Once these reforms are through, there will be excellent opportunities for everybody. My best wishes, and you are going to be successful as an agriculture entrepreneur. Yes, it is possible.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, we are going to talk about whatever policy measures which are encouraging entrepreneurs and taking up some opportunities also. In the meantime, we would like to carry on the series. So we would soon announce the continuation of this series, sir, and we will only talk about what opportunities are there for entrepreneurs and livelihoods. Like for example, we have millet based. Recently you saw the announcement, India is actually started United Nations as year of presidency. The first day has begun 2nd of August, so they are going to announce 2023 as a year of millets. So there are some promotions, at least if not taken up in on ground activities. We are going to identify technology based opportunities and contract farming opportunities, and also what are the schemes and support measures are available for trying out different kinds of farming, not only conventional farming but intercropping and organic farming, and also standardization, marketing opportunities, value addition. All these things we will pick it up. So in every every session we would like to identify one opportunity, and how entrepreneurs and people who are seeing farming as an opportunity can look as a lucrative way of doing things. So once again, I'd like to thank you, sir, Mr. Chengal Reddy. We wish you a good health, and we want your continuous support, and we would not waste your knowledge, whatever experience you have, and we'll tap into it. And we also would like to thank also your team who actually helped us reaching you. So you are a founder of CIFA, so I would like to thank CIFA and all its members. I'd like to thank my co-host, Ms. Ranjita Pradeep. Thank you, ma'am. And yeah, so once again, I'd like to close with Namaskar, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, sir. It was
Thank
a
you,
wonderful
ma'am.
session. And we would take, looking forward for many more sessions like this. We can continue, as you suggested us, with scientists and connect different people together in a one platform. And the younger generation should feel this is also one career opportunity for them to make livelihood.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.